alleging in excuse his total ignorance.
Diablic
and the
barra baja
conversation took a
UK
more
just
general
resubscribed
turn.
for 25
I thanked my
months.
friend from the heart, but I did not speak. I saw plainly that he was surprised, but he never attempted to draw my secret from me, and although I loved him with a mixture of affection and reverence that knew no bounds, yet I could never persuade myself to confide in him that event which was so often present to my recollection, but which I feared the detail to another would only impress more deeply. M. Cramp was not equally docile, and in my condition at that time, of almost insupportable sensitiveness, his harsh, blunt encomiums gave me even more pain than the benevolent approbation of M. Waldman. "Damn the fellow!" cried he. "Why, M. Clerval, I assure you he has outstripped us all. Aye, stare if you please, but it is nevertheless true. A youngster who, but a few years ago, believed
What's
in
up?
Cornelius
Thank you so
Agrippa's firmness
much.
in the gospel, has now set himself
My
at the head of the
lord.
university. And if he is not soon pulled...
How dare you? Thank you so much, Diabolic. How are you doing? I almost haven't streamed for a whole week. It's been 6 days. 25 months. Crazy. How was your lunch? Did you suffer for long? And was it worth it?
Wait to me. Clerval had never sympathized in my tastes for natural science.
California, rest in peace. No, I was gonna say. Ah, good. Sick. Wait, did I respond? I think I did. I'm exactly halfway to being the world's oldest person. Tree? Wow. Show me the number. Whoa, 122. Divided by 2. Wait, that can't be true. You're... Oh! Aha! Yo, it's dark. What the hell? Dark is also here? What in the world? Did I link this? I don't think I linked this, did I? My journey. Wait, I have this in my ears for some reason.
Winter and snow arrived. The roads were deemed impassable, and my journey was retarded until the ensuing spring.
That made me laugh for some reason. And my journey was retarded until spring. You fucking retard. Of course, talking to the carriage that I'm riding in, because why otherwise would I mention the word? You're alive! Yeah, it's changed. 118. It's probably a while ago. I mean, probably... I was going to say 4 years. But, I don't know. How you doing, Dark? Good to see you, dude. Good to see all of you. There be life, yeah. He hasn't died. Good to hear it. Oh, frick. It's fantastic. True. How you been, Michelle? Mitchie? Golly. I haven't seen you in the stream in like 40 years. I was lurking through your whole last stream. I didn't want to talk though because people. I have been good. Good. Thank you. Yes. How did you know? Or was that a question? It looks like a statement. Okay. But doing pretty alright? Sweet. I love alright. I love to hear alright. Alright, alright, alright. California, rest in peace. Simultaneous release. California, show your teeth. She's my priestess, I'm your priest. Yeah, yeah, California. What the? Rest in peace. Simultaneous. Big cheese. That was a typo? What's a typo? What? Eve? What are you talking about? Who's Eve? Found something that thought you wouldn't find soon. Found something that thought wouldn't find soon. You wouldn't find, or I wouldn't find, or that wouldn't be found by other people. Found? Maybe it doesn't matter, really. That's right. I just came from home from the gym like 20 minutes ago. A little more. I had to take a shower. Me. I am. McDonald's. Excuse me. Sorry, not sorry. Hey. What did you find? You butt. What did you butt? Oh, wait. How did you find? What? Huh. What is this? I found a girlfriend. I would never have guessed that. You're right. How did you find a girlfriend? Is she alive? Unconscious, maybe? Oh, maybe she's in a coma? Half conscious, half unconscious? I'm a monkey. How have oo been? Who's oo? I can't type. What did you... What? I don't know. I'm good. I don't know what just happened. Sick! Congrats, dude. Big congratulations, my friend. It's huge. That's huge. So what you're saying is she's not unconscious. Hmm? What is that? No. Discard. She's fine? I would hope so. You didn't break her or something, did you? How do you... Your activity. What's her name? Wait. We talked... Last time we spoke. Maybe I shouldn't get into it. Maybe I shouldn't get into it. But there was a bit of a gap, you know? I was going to make a joke there, but I feel like that'd be inappropriate. It's the same girl. Sick. Damn. So the trauma dumping worked. No, I'm kidding. I'm happy for you, dude. That's awesome. Glad you found each other. Hope it's working well. You know what I'm saying? When was the officiality? When did you name yourselves boyfriend and girlfriend? boyfriend and girlfriend. Curlfriend. That's like someone you take to the gym. Only use them for curling. Or maybe it's like a curlfriend. You know, curling? Like the sport. I'm so funny. Refurbished. She's better now. I made her better. That's amazing. She's like an apartment. She's refurbished. Renewed. Made into a better version. For a month and 8 days. Whoa, you're counting to the day. Sick. So that should be the 10th of December. Unless you... because it's 31 days in January, yes? Yes. And December. Yes, it should be the 10th of December. Remember the 10th of December. That's when the boyfriend and girlfriend status was achieved. And now it is beheld, and hopefully it will remain as so. Thusly. I've marked it on the calendar. Or where have you marked it? Have you like cut yourself so much that like the date is in your arm? That's a dark joke. That's edgy. I'm sorry. That's terrible. When will you be my girlfriend? Hey, I'm taken, alright? I'm taken. You know, I'm the second girlfriend of Baka. Although, I feel like at this point, being that I'm the second girlfriend still, maybe things need to change around here. Maybe the quota needs to be different. Maybe the balance, maybe the power dynamic needs to shift. Because I'm not getting enough action, alright? I even offered myself to be a third breakfast, but not even a response. Golly. I forgot I had that. No. 1v1 me in chess rap battle. Cringe. Imagine. Oh, that'd actually be sick. Imagine like chess boxing, but instead of boxing, you do a rap battle. But you wouldn't want to... But how would you win in the rap part, though? Because it'd be, like, subjective, right? I don't want the rap part. Well, too bad. It's either all in or nothing, right? You can't pick and choose, you baby. You can't be a bicker and chooser. We can be a triangle. Oh, I missed that. Yes, we can be the Bermuda Triangle. And we can also have, you know, the trade triangle. We can trade. What have you been up to these days, Mitchie? Oh, with the Devil's Triangle. Yes, that is us. This is true. Ah, the Bermuda Triangle, also known as the Devil's... Oh, Devil's Tongue. Is an urban legend focused on a loosely defined region in the western part of the North Atlantic Ocean where a number of aircraft and ships are said to have disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Just like my dick inside your ass. I mean, what? That's how it forms, right? Looking for a job? Well, I mean... You ask me to be your girlfriend, but I feel like if you're looking for a job, you see the connection? What sauce? Why would you have sauce for breakfast? That's the dessert. You can't think of the dessert immediately. You have to kind of walk. You have to travel up to it. I don't know why I'm speaking with a German accent. You gotta, you gotta. What's the word? You know what I mean. You gotta walk the trail, walk the gangplank. You have to be mad. I can be your girlfriend. That's not what I was saying. But you can be my girlfriend. But I don't have any money to give you for that position. If I had a heart, I could love you. If I had a voice, I would sing. In order to be my girlfriend, you would have to do lots of things for me. You'd essentially be my employee. I don't think that's what you want. Ketchup is a sauce that goes with breakfast. You're a sauce that goes with breakfast, okay? I'll use your blood as my ketchup. Huh? How you like me now, huh? See, that's what I'm saying, alright? You can't have them both. Hey, does this work, by the way? This thing right there? Wait, let me do this. This thing? I'm trying to point at it. Like this one. That thing. Actually, I haven't tried it myself. Does it work? Could someone check? That adds so much. Wow. Scam me, big sad? Scam. What? That would be crazy. That's actually a good idea. Except I would probably get banned like this quick. This quick. But that's a pretty good idea. Imagine using a QR code to scan Twitch viewers. No, I just want you to use it and click the like button and like type you're a goat fucker in the comments or something. Or you can, go click the thing and then dislike and then say, I love you. I want you to have my babies. Or you can click the link, watch the whole thing like 10 times in a row on repeat, maybe even 100 times. And then, say that I have milk for sale. And then I'll come squeeze it out of you. Oh, you're on your phone? Fucking nerd. I couldn't see it with a straight face. Interesting. Are you about to hit the hay, hit the sack, hit the bed? You're gonna hit the bed? Whoa. Calm down, brother. Sick. That's what I'm gonna do. The music. Rhythm is a dancer. You can feel it in the air. Whoa. Whoa. You can feel it in the air. Oh. Let's get retarded, Let's get it started in here. Man, I've I've gotten bored of studying now. Not to like complain or anything. I'm just saying. Studying was fun, but now it's really boring. And it's only the second week. Not even the finish. And like, you know. It literally just started. Chess game? I'm not complaining. You want me to stop? Did this work? I love this a lot. Now this song is now reminding me. It is Frankenstein. You know what I mean? What job have you been looking for, Mitchie? If you want to talk about it. I know it fucking sucks looking for a job. Have you found any who are looking for a part-timer? An apartheid? What's the last thing you complained about, Diabolic? A job that pays would be great. So you just want anything? You just want to even... Would you settle for, like, folding clothes? Is that something you can imagine yourself doing? Or do you want to be like a cashier? Maybe? Doubtful. Why? My neighbor is always... Sorry. What am I sorry? A job and an ASMR video. Folding clothes, a job and an ASMR video. I don't know what those... I see with two things. Actually, I can see the correlation within all the three things. If that pays me enough to get my own place, currently that would do. I mean, if you save for like 10 years, maybe, you know, in the current environment, in the current, what's the word? Market. Finding any place is almost close to a miracle. Making crystal meth. Hey, are you watching it? Babla? Chemistry related. Fantastic. But you are searching for anything and everything, yes? Or was that just a joke? Look at this guy wanting to become a criminal. Hey, can I join you? 2 episodes! Whoa! Hey, slow down there! Don't become a binge watcher now. Woo! No, I was kidding. Chapter 15. Such was the history of my beloved cottagers. It impressed me deeply. I learned from the views of social life which it developed to admire their virtues and to deprecate the vices of mankind. As yet I looked upon crime as a distant evil. Benevolence and generosity were ever present before me, inciting me with a desire to become an actor in the busy scene where so many admirable qualities were called forth and displayed. But in giving an account of the progress of my intellect, I must not omit a circumstance which occurred in the beginning of the month of August of the same year. One night during my accustomed visit to the neighboring wood, where I collected my own food and brought home firing for my protectors, I found on the ground a leathern portmanteau. Containing several articles of dress and some books. I eagerly seized the prize and returned with it to my hovel. Fortunately, the books were written in the language, the element of which I had acquired at the cottage. They consisted of Paradise Lost, a volume of Plutarch's Lives, and The Sorrow of Werther. The possession of these treasures gave me extreme delight. I now continually studied and exercised my mind upon these stories, whilst my friends were employed in their ordinary occupations. I can hardly describe to you the effect of these books. They produced in me an infinity of new images and feelings that sometimes raised me to ecstasy, but more frequently sunk me into the lowest dejection. In the Sorrows of Werther, besides the interest of its simple and affecting story, so many opinions are canvassed, and so many lights thrown upon what had hitherto been to me obscure subjects, that I found in it a never-ending source of speculation and astonishment. The gentle and domestic manners it described, combined with lofty sentiments and feelings, which had for their object something out of self, accorded well with my experience among my protectors, and with the wants which were ever alive in my own bosom. But I thought Werther himself a more divine being than I had ever beheld or imagined. His character contained no pretension, but it sank deep. The disquisitions upon death and suicide were calculated to fill me with wonder. I did not pretend to enter into the merits of the case, yet I inclined towards the opinions of the hero, whose extinction I wept, without precisely understanding it. As I read, however, I applied much personally to my own feelings and condition. I found myself similar, yet at the same time strangely unlike, to the beings concerned whom I read, and to whose conversation I was a listener. I sympathized with and partly understood them, but I was unformed in my mind. I was dependent on none, and related to none. The path of my departure was free, and there was none to lament my annihilation. My person was hideous, and my stature gigantic. What did this mean? Who was I? What was I? Whence did I come? What was my destination? These questions continually recurred, but I was unable to solve them. The volume of Plutarch's Lives, which I possessed, contained the histories of the first founders of the ancient republics. This book had a far different effect upon me from the Sorrows of Werther. I learned from Werther's imaginations despondency and gloom, but Plutarch taught me high thoughts. He elevated me above the wretched sphere of my own reflections, to admire and love the heroes of past ages. Many things I read surpassed my understanding and experience. I had a very confused knowledge of kingdoms, wide extents of country, mighty rivers, and boundless seas. But I was perfectly unacquainted with towns and large assemblages of men. The cottage of my protectors had been the only school in which I had studied human nature, but this book developed new and mightier scenes of action. I read of men concerned in public affairs, governing or massacring their species. I felt the greatest ardor for virtue rise within me, and abhorrence for vice. As far as I understood the signification of those terms, relative as they were, as I applied them, to pleasure and pain alone. Induced by these feelings, I was of course led to admire peaceable lawgivers. Numa, Solon, and Lycurgus, in preference to Romulus and Theseus. The patriarchal lives of my protectors caused these impressions to take a firm hold on my mind. Perhaps, if my first introduction to humanity had been made by a young soldier burning for glory and slaughter, I should have been imbued with different sensations. But Paradise Lost excited different and far deeper emotions. I read it as I had read the other volumes which had fallen into my hands, as a true history. It moved every feeling of wonder and awe that the picture of an omnipotent god warring with his creatures was capable of exciting.
I often refer the several situations as their similarity struck me to my own. Like Adam, I was apparently united by no link to any other being in existence, but his state was far different from mine in every other aspect. He had come forth from the hands of God, a perfect creature, happy and prosperous, guarded by the special care of his Creator. He was allowed to converse with and acquire knowledge from beings of a superior nature, but I was wretched, helpless, and alone. Many times I considered Satan as the fitter emblem of my condition, for often, like him, when I viewed the bliss of my protectors, the bitter gall of envy rose within me. Another circumstance strengthened and confirmed these feelings. Soon after my arrival in the hovel, I discovered some papers in the pocket of the dress which I had taken from your laboratory. At first I had neglected them, but now that I was able to decipher the characters in which they were written, I began to study them with diligence. It was your journal of the 4 months that preceded my creation. You minutely described in these papers every step you took in the progress of your work. This history was mingled with accounts of domestic occurrences. You doubtless recollect these papers. Here they are. Everything is related in them which bears reference to my accursed origin. The whole detail of that series of disgusting circumstances which produced it is set in view. The minutest description of my odious and loathsome person is given, in language which painted your own horrors and rendered mine indelible. I sickened as I read. Hateful day when I received life, I exclaimed in agony. Accursed Creator, why did you form a monster so hideous that even you turned from me in disgust? God, in pity, made man beautiful and alluring, after his own image, but my form is a filthy type of yours, more horrid even from the very resemblance. Satan had his companions, fellow devils, to admire and encourage him, but I am solitary and abhorred. These were the reflections of my hours of despondency and solitude. But when I contemplated the virtues of the cottagers, their amiable and benevolent dispositions, I persuaded myself that when they should become acquainted with my admiration of their virtues, they would compassionate me and overlook my personal deformity. Could they turn from their door one, however monstrous, who solicited their compassion and friendship? I resolved, at least, not to despair, but in every way to fit myself for an interview with them which should them. I resolved at least not to despair, but in every way to fit myself for an interview with them, which would decide my fate. I postponed this attempt for some months longer, for the importance attached to its success inspired me with a dread lest I should fail. Besides, I found that my understanding improved so much with every day's experience that I was unwilling to commence this undertaking until a few more months should have added to my sagacity.
Please don't spell upon me, sorcerer, wizard.
Speaking of Breaking Bad, though, even though it's like 15 minutes ago now, I've been rewatching Better Call Saul. It's a curse. I curse myself because it's so good.
It's so good. But my time is spent. So much of my time is spent, and I can't help it. It is ever so good. And I watch it again. Several changes, in the meantime, took place in the cottage. The presence of Safi diffused happiness among its inhabitants, and I also found that a greater degree of plenty reigned there. Felix and Agatha spent more time in amusement and conversation. Excuse me. And were assisted in their labors by servants. They did not appear rich, but they were contented and happy. Their feelings were serene and peaceful, while mine became every day more tumultuous. Increase of knowledge only discovered to me more clearly what a wretched outcast I was. I cherished hope, it is true, but it vanished when I beheld my person reflected in water or my shadow in the moonshine, even as that frail image in that inconstant shade. I endeavored to crush these fears and to fortify myself for the trial which in a few months I resolved to undergo, and sometimes I allowed my thoughts, unchecked by reason, to ramble in the fields of paradise, and dared to fancy amiable and lovely creatures sympathizing with my feelings and cheering my gloom. Their angelic countenances breathed smiles of consolation. But it was all a dream. No Eve soothed my sorrows, nor shared my thoughts. I was alone. I remembered Adam's supplication to his Creator, but where was mine? He had abandoned me, and in the bitterness of my heart I cursed him. Autumn passed thus. I saw with surprise and grief the leaves decay and fall. The nature again assumed the barren and bleak appearance it had worn when I first beheld the woods and the lovely moon. Yet I did not heed the bleakness of the weather. I was better fitted by my conformation for the endurance of cold than heat. But my chief delights were the sight of the flowers, the birds, and all the gay apparel of summer. When those deserted me, I turned with more attention towards the cottagers. Their happiness was not decreased by the absence of summer. They loved and sympathized with one another, and their joys, depending on each other, were not interrupted by the casualties that took place around them. The more I saw of them, the greater became my desire to claim their protection and kindness. My heart yearned to be known and loved by these amiable creatures. To see their sweet looks directed towards me with affection was the utmost limit of my ambition. I dared not think that they would turn them from me with disdain and trust. With disdain and horror. The poor that stopped at their door were never driven away. I asked, it is true, for greater treasures than a little food or rest. I required kindness and sympathy. But I did not believe myself utterly unworthy of it. The winter advanced, and an entire revolution of the seasons had taken place since I awoke into life. My attention at this time was solely directed towards my plan of introducing myself into the cottage of my protectors. I revolved many projects, but that on which I finally fixed was to enter the dwelling when the blind old man should be alone. I had sagacity enough to discover that the unnatural hideousness of my person was the chief object of horror with those who had formerly beheld me. My voice, although harsh, had nothing terrible in it. I thought, therefore, that if in the absence of his children I could gain the good will and mediation of the old De Lacy, I might by his means be tolerated by my younger protectors. One day, when the sun shone on the red leaves that strewed the ground and diffused cheerfulness, although it denied warmth, Sophie, Agatha, and Felix departed on a long country walk, and the old man, at his own desire, was left up. When his children had departed, he took up his guitar and played several mournful but sweet airs, more sweet and mournful than I had ever heard him play before. At first his countenance was illuminated with pleasure, but as he continued, thoughtfulness and sadness succeeded. At length, laying aside the instrument, he sat absorbed in reflection. My heart beat quick. This was the hour and moment of trial, which would decide my hopes or realize my fears. The servants were gone to a neighboring fair. All was silent in and around the cottage. It was an excellent opportunity. Yet, when I proceeded to execute my plan, my limbs failed me, and I sank to the ground. Again I rose, and exerting all the firmness of which I was master, removed the planks which I had placed before my hovel to conceal my retreat. The fresh air revived me, and with renewed determination I approached the door of their cottage. I knocked. "Who is there?" said the old man. "Come in." I entered. "Pardon this intrusion," said I. "I am a traveller in want of a little rest. You would greatly oblige me if you would allow me to remain a few minutes before the fire." "Enter," said De Lacy, "and I will try in what manner I can to relieve your wants, but unfortunately my children are from home, and as I am blind, I am afraid I shall find it difficult to procure food for you." "Do not trouble yourself, my kind host. I have food. It is warmth and rest only that I need." I sat down, and a silence ensued. I knew that every minute was precious to me, yet I remained irresolute in what manner to commence the interview, when the old man addressed me. "By your language, stranger, I suppose you are my countryman. Are you French?" No, but I was educated by a French family, and understand the language only. I am now going to claim the protection of some friends whom I sincerely love, and of whose favor I have some hopes." "Are they Germans?" No, they are French. But let us change the subject. I am an unfortunate and deserted creature. I look around and I have no relation or friend upon earth. These amiable people to whom I go have never seen me and know little of me. I am full of fears, for if I fail there, I am an outcast in the world forever. "Do not despair. To be friendless is indeed to be unfortunate, but the hearts of men, when unprejudiced by any obvious self-interest, are full of brotherly love and charity. Rely, therefore, on your hopes, and if these friends are good and amiable, do not despair." "They are kind. They are the most excellent creatures in the world, but, unfortunately, they are prejudiced against me. I have good dispositions. My life has been hitherto harmless and in some degree beneficial, but a fatal prejudice clouds their eyes, and where they ought to see a feeling and kind friend, they behold only a detestable monster." What is this? What is this? Okay, I don't know why this keeps happening. "And where they ought to see a feeling and kind friend, they behold only a detestable monster." Strange. What is this? Strange indeed. Ow. La 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 la. all is well. That is indeed unfortunate, but if you are really blameless, cannot you undeceive them? I am about to undertake that task, and it is on that account that I feel so many overwhelming terrors. I tenderly love these friends. I have, unknown to them, been for many months in the habit of daily kindness towards them, but they believe that I wish to injure them, and it is that prejudice which I wish to overcome. Where do these friends reside? Near this spot. The old man paused and then continued. If you will unreservedly confide to me the particulars of your tale, I perhaps may be of use in undeceiving them. I am blind and cannot judge of your countenance, but there is something in your words which persuades me that you are sincere. I am poor and in exile, but it will afford me true pleasure to be in any way serviceable to a human creature. Excellent man. I thank you and accept your generous offer. You raise me from the dust by this kindness, and I trust that, by your aid, I shall not be driven from the society and sympathy of your fellow creatures. Heaven forbid! Even if you were really criminal, for that can only drive you to desperation, and not instigate you to virtue. I also am unfortunate. I and my family have been condemned, although innocent. Judge, therefore, if I do not feel for your misfortunes. How can I thank you, my best and only benefactor? From your lips first I have heard the voice of kindness directed towards me. I shall be forever grateful, and your present humanity assures me of success with those friends whom I am on the point of meeting. May I know the names and residence of those friends? I paused. This, I thought, was the moment of decision, which was to rob me of, or bestow me happiness on me forever. I struggled vainly for firmness sufficient to answer him, but the effort destroyed all my remaining strength. I sank on the chair and sobbed aloud. At that moment I heard the steps of my younger protectors. I had not a moment to lose, but seizing the hand of the old man, I cried, "Now is the time. Save and protect me. You and your family are the friends whom I seek. Do not you desert me in the hour of trial." "Great God!" exclaimed the old man. "Who are you?" At that instant the cottage door was opened, and Felix, Safi, and Agatha entered. Who can describe their horror and consternation on beholding me? Agatha fainted, and Safi, unable to attend to her friend, rushed out of the cottage. Felix darted forward, and with supernatural force tore me from his father, to whose knees I clung, in a transport of fury. He dashed me to the ground and struck me violently with a stick. I could have torn him limb from limb, as the lion rends the antelope. But my heart sank within me, as with bitter sickness, and I refrained. I saw him on the point of repeating his blow when, overcome by pain and anguish, I quitted the cottage, and in the general tumult escaped unperceived to my hovel. The music got so sad as well. Hey! I just saw that. Such timing. A pox, sirrah. A pox. Not a pox upon you. Thank you so much. How are you doing? I just need some more water before I continue this. Hey there. I don't know what happened, but the water decided to go in my nose. That almost really hurt. Whew. Whew. How did you find this? Epoxy? Epoxy? What should I call you? Apo? 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 Epox? Epoxy? Epoxy Ra? I'm doing fabulous. Fantastic. Thank you. Just gonna get some water real quick. Just give me a quick moment, please, if you would be so kind. That is a great amount. I love that. The Mew dance. That's a classic, isn't it? Thank you. Yes. I'm also trying. Oh my goodness. There we are. Water has been acquired. Time to continue this thing. Right. Yeah. Let me see if I can sit down properly without bumping into everything. Never mind. Okay, I'll just do this. Not sitting on like a rolling chair can be difficult at times, especially when you have a carpet underneath you. I make it difficult for myself. It is the life I live. How did you find the stream, Epoxy? Do you want me to call you Epoxy? El Poxira. Ah, is that Spanish? Apox, gotcha. Cool. Oh, tasty, fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Glad to have you. Ape. Never mind. Apox? Probably not it. What was that? Alright. Chapter 16. Cursed Creator. Why did I live? Why, in that instant, did I not extinguish the spark of existence which you had so wantonly bestowed? I know not. Despair had not yet taken possession of me. My feelings were those of rage and revenge. I could with pleasure have destroyed the cottage and its inhabitants and have glutted myself with their shrieks and misery. Oh, it's Greek. That's cool. Sweet. So I assume you're Greek then? Perhaps? When night came, I quitted my retreat and wandered in the wood. And now, no longer restrained by the fear of discovery, I gave vent to my anguish in fearful howlings. I was like a wild beast that had broken the toils, destroying the objects that obstructed me, and ranging through the wood with a stag-like swiftness. Oh, what a miserable night I passed. The cold stars shone in mockery, and the bare trees waved their branches above me. Now and then the sweet voice of a bird burst forth amidst the universal stillness. All, save I, were at rest or in enjoyment. I, like the arch-fiend, bore a hell within me, and finding myself unsympathized with, wished to tear up the trees, spread havoc and destruction around me, and then to have sat down and enjoyed the ruin. But this was a luxury of sensation that could not endure. I became fatigued with excess of bodily exertion, and sank on the damp grass in the sick impotence of despair. There was none among the myriads of men that existed who would pity or assist me, and should I feel kindness towards my enemies? No. From that moment I declared everlasting war against the species, and more than all against him who had formed me and sent me forth to this unsupportable misery. The sun rose. I heard the voices of men and knew that it was impossible to return to my The sun rose. I heard the voices of men and knew that it was impossible to return to my retreat during that day. Accordingly, I hid myself in some thick underwood, determining to devote the ensuing hours to reflection on my situation. Sometimes words are hard. I'm just gonna stop typing. You're fine. You can type as much as you want. I don't mind. Might take me a little bit to respond though. Hope you don't mind. What is this? A pox upon you. It happens, it does. Sometimes a lot, other times... Well, today has been really fluid, really smooth with narration. The pleasant sunshine and the pure air of day restored me to some degree of tranquility, and when I considered what had passed at the cottage, I could not help believing that I had been too hasty in my conclusions. I had certainly acted imprudently. It was apparent that my conversation had interested the father in my behalf, and I was a fool in having exposed my person to the horror of his children. I ought to have familiarized the old Lacey to me, and by degrees to have discovered myself to the rest of his family, when they should have been prepared for my approach. But I did not believe my errors to be irretrievable, and after much consideration I resolved to return to the cottage, seek the old man, and by my representations win him to my party. These thoughts calmed me, and in the afternoon I sank into profound sleep, but the fever of my blood did not allow me to be visited by peaceful dreams. The horrible scene of my preceding day was forever acting before my eyes. The females were flying, and the enraged Felix tearing me from his father's feet. I awoke exhausted, and finding that it was already night, I crept forth from my hiding place, and went in search of food. When my hunger was appeased, I directed my steps towards the well-known path that conducted to the cottage. All there was at peace. I crept into my hovel and remained in silent expectation of the accustomed hour when the family arose. That hour passed. The sun mounted high in the heavens, but the cottagers did not appear. I trembled violently, apprehending some dreadful misfortune. The inside of the cottage was dark, and I heard no motion. I cannot describe the agony of this suspense. Presently 2 countrymen passed by, but pausing near the cottage they entered into conversation, using violent gesticulations. But I did not understand what they said, as they spoke the language of the country, which differed from that of my protectors. Soon after, however, Felix approached with another man. I was surprised, as I knew that he had not quitted the cottage that morning, and waited anxiously to discover from his discourse the meaning of these unusual appearances. "Do you consider," said his companion to him, "that you will be obliged to pay 3 months' rent and to lose the produce of your garden? I do not wish to take any unfair advantage, and I beg therefore that you will take some days to consider of your determination." "It is utterly useless," replied Felix. "We can never again inhabit your cottage. The life of my father is in the greatest danger. owing to the dreadful circumstance that I've related, my wife and my sister will never recover from their horror. I entreat you not to reason. I entreat you not to reason with me anymore. Take possession of your tenement, and let me fly from this place.
Felix trembled. Now I gotta figure out my accents. Felix trembled violently as he said this. He and his companion entered the cottage, in which they remained for a few minutes, and then departed. I never saw any of the family of de Lacy more. I continued for the remainder of the day in my hovel, in a state of utter and stupid despair. My protectors had departed and had broken the only link that held me to the world. For the first time the feelings of revenge and hatred filled my bosom, and I did not strive to control them, but allowing myself to be borne away by the stream, I bent my mind towards injury and death. When I thought of my friends, of the mild voice of de Lacy, the gentle eyes of Agatha, and the exquisite beauty of the Arabian, these thoughts vanished, and a gush of tears somewhat soothed me. But again, when I reflected that they had spurned and deserted me, anger returned, a rage of anger, and unable to injure any human, I turned my fury towards inanimate objects. As night advanced, I placed a variety of combustibles around the cottage, and after having destroyed every vestige of cultivation in the garden, I waited with forced impatience until the moon had sunk to commence my operations. Right, the music. As the night advanced, a fierce wind rose from the woods and quickly dispersed the clouds that had loitered in the heavens. The blast tore along like a mighty avalanche and produced a kind of insanity in my spirits that burst all bounds of reason and reflection. I lighted the dry branch of a tree and danced with fury around the devoted cottage, my eyes still fixed on the western horizon, the edge of which the moon nearly touched. A part of its orb was at length hid, and I waved my brand. It sank, and with a loud scream I fired the straw and heath and bushes which I had collected. The wind fanned the fire, and the cottage was quickly enveloped by the flames, which clung to it and licked it with their forked and destroying tongues. Sick. Cool. As soon as I was convinced that no assistance could save any part of the habitation, I quitted the scene and sought for refuge in the woods. And now, with the world before me, whither should I bend my steps? I resolved to fly far from the scene of my misfortunes, but to me, hated and despised, every country must be equally horrible. At length they excuse me. You know, that's every time I drink water, which is all I'm drinking. So much air. Excuse me. Where was I? At length they... Thank you. Thank you. At length the thought of you crossed my mind. I learned from your papers that you were my father, my creator, and to whom could I apply with more fitness than to him who had given me life?
Among the lessons that Felix had bestowed upon Safi, geography had not been omitted. I had learned from the relative situations of the different countries of the earth. You had mentioned Geneva as the name of your native town, and towards this place I resolved to proceed. But how was I to direct myself? I knew that I must travel in a southwesterly direction to reach my destination, but the sun was my only guide. I did not know the names of the towns that I was to pass through, nor could I ask information from a single human being. But I did not despair. From you only, I could hope for succor, although towards you I felt no sentiment but that of hatred. Unfeeling, heartless creator, you had endowed me with perceptions and passions, and then cast me abroad an object for the scorn and horror of mankind. But on you only had I any claim for pity and redress, and from you I determined to seek that justice which I vainly attempted to gain from any other being that wore the human form. My travels were long, and the sufferings I endured intense. It was late in autumn when I quitted the district where I had so long resided. I travelled only at night, fearful of encountering the visage of a human being. Nature decayed around me, and the sun became heatless. Rain and snow poured around me. Mighty rivers were frozen. The surface of the earth was hard and chill and bare, and I found no shelter. Oh, earth, how often did I imprecate? How often did I imprecate curses on the cause of my being? What is that word? Imprecate? Imprecate. The mildness of my nature had fled, and all within me was turned to gall and bitterness. The nearer I approached to your habitation, the more deeply did I feel the spirit of revenge enkindled in my heart. Snow fell, and the waters were hardened, but I rested not. A few incidents now and then directed me, and I possessed a map of the country, but I often wandered wide from my path. The agony of my feelings allowed me no respite. No incident occurred from which my rage and misery could not extract its food. But a circumstance that happened when I arrived on the confines of Switzerland, when the sun had recovered its warmth and the earth again began to look green, confirmed in an especial manner the bitterness and horror of my feelings. I generally rested during the day and travelled only when I was secured by night from the view of man. One morning, however, finding that my path lay through a deep wood, I ventured to continue my journey after the sun had risen. The day, which was one of the first of spring, cheered even me by the loveliness of its sunshine and the balminess of the air. I felt emotions of gentleness and pleasure that had long appeared dead revive within me. Half surprised by the novelty of these sensations, I allowed myself to be borne away by them, and forgetting my solitude and deformity, dared to be happy. Soft tears again bedewed my cheeks, and I even raised my humid eyes with thankfulness towards the blessed sun, which bestowed such joy upon me. It's beautiful. I love it. That's gorgeous. I love that sentiment. I continued to wind among the paths of the wood until I came to its boundary, which was skirted by a deep and rapid river, into which many of the trees bent their branches, now budding with the fresh spring. Here I paused, not exactly knowing what path to pursue, when I heard the sound of voices that induced me to conceal myself under the shade of a cypress. I was scarcely hid when a young girl came running towards the spot where I was concealed. laughing, as if she ran from someone in sport. She continued her course along the precipitous sides of the river, when suddenly her foot slipped, and she fell into the rapid stream. I rushed from my hiding spot. I don't know what's happening. I rushed from my hiding place, and with extreme labor, from the force of the current, saved her, and dragged her to the shore. She was senseless, and I endeavored by every means in my power to restore animation, when I was suddenly interrupted by the approach of a rustic, who was probably the person from whom she had playfully fled. On seeing me, he darted towards me, and tearing the girl from my arms, hastened towards the deeper parts of the wood. I followed speedily. I hardly knew why, but when the man saw me draw near, he aimed a gun, which he carried, at my body, and fired. I sank to the ground, and my injurer, with increased swiftness, escaped into the wood. This is true. I'm very excited. For sure. Beautiful. Fantastic. Absolutely gorgeous. That's true, Diablo. Thank you. I appreciate that, Apox. I'm glad you're enjoying. Yeah, I get so into it. That's true. So I get excited. It's a good feedback to give. To slow it down, to just take a moment, just breathe in and breathe out. This was then the reward of my benevolence. I had saved a human being from destruction, and as a recompense I now writhed under the miserable pain of a wound which shattered the flesh and bone. The feelings of kindness and gentleness which I had entertained but a few moments before gave place to hellish rage and gnashing of teeth. Inflamed by pain, I vowed eternal hatred and vengeance to all mankind. But the agony of my wound overcame me. My pulses paused, and I fainted. For some weeks I led a miserable life in the woods, endeavoring to cure the wound which I had received. The ball had entered my shoulder, and I knew not whether it had remained there or passed through. At any rate, I had no means of extracting it. My sufferings were augmented also by the oppressive sense of the injustice and ingratitude of their infliction. My daily vows rose for revenge, a deep and deadly revenge, such as would alone compensate for the outrages and anguish I had endured. After some weeks, my wound healed, and I continued my journey. The labors I endured were no longer to be alleviated by the bright sun or gentle breezes of spring. All joy was but a mockery which insulted my desolate state and made me feel more painfully that I was not made for the enjoyment of pleasure. But my toils now drew near a close, and in 2 months from this time I reached the environs of Geneva.
It was evening when I arrived, and I retired to a hiding place among the fields that surround it to meditate in what manner I should apply to you. I was oppressed by fatigue and hunger, and far too unhappy to enjoy the gentle breezes of evening or the prospect of the sun setting behind the stupendous mountains of Jura. At this time, a slight sleep relieved me from the pain of reflection, which was disturbed by the approach of a beautiful child, who came running into the recess I had chosen, with all the sportiveness of infancy. Suddenly, as I gazed on him, an idea seized me that this little creature was unprejudiced and had lived too short a time to have imbibed a horror of deformity. If, therefore, I could seize him and educate him as my companion and friend, I should not be so desolate in this peopled earth. Urged by this impulse, I seized on the boy as he passed and drew him towards me. As soon as he beheld my form, he placed his hands before his eyes and uttered a shrill scream. I drew his hand forcibly from his face and said, "Child, what is the meaning of this? I do not intend to hurt you. Listen to me." He struggled violently. "Let me go," he cried. "Monster, ugly wretch, you wish to eat me and tear me to pieces. You are an ogre. Let me go, or I will tell my papa." "Boy, you will never see your father again. You must come with me." "Hideous monster, let me go. My papa is a syndic. He is M. Frankenstein. He will punish you. You dare not keep me." "Frankenstein, you belong then to my enemy, to him towards whom I have sworn eternal revenge. You shall be my first victim." The child still struggled and loaded me with epithets which carried despair to my heart. I grasped his throat to silence him, and in a moment he lay dead at my feet. That's how it happened? Wow. I did not imagine it to be William Frankenstein. I had no clue at all. It went weird. Killing a child. Yeah, it's pretty weird, bro. Pretty weird, dude. Let me do this real quick. I gazed on my victim, and my heart swelled with exultation and hellish triumph. Clapping my hands, I exclaimed, "I too can create desolation. My enemy is not invulnerable. This death will carry despair to him, and 1,000 other miseries shall torment and destroy him." As I fixed my eyes on the child, I saw something glittering on his breast. I took it. It was a portrait of a most lovely woman. In spite of my malignity, it softened and attracted me. For a few moments I gazed with delight on her dark eyes, fringed by deep lashes, and her lovely lips. But presently my rage returned. I remembered that I was forever deprived of the delights that such beautiful creatures could bestow, and that she, whose resemblance I can... and that she whose resemblance I contemplated would, in regarding me, have changed that air of divine benignity to one expressive of disgust and affright. Can you wonder that such thoughts had transported me with rage? I only wondered that, at that moment, instead of venting my sensations in exclamations and agony,
I did not rush among mankind and perish in the attempt to destroy them. While I was overcome by these feelings, I left the spot where I had committed the murder, and seeking a more secluded hiding place, I entered a barn which had appeared to me to be empty. A woman was sleeping on some straw. She was young, not indeed so beautiful as her whose portrait I held, but of an agreeable aspect and blooming in the loveliness of youth and health. Here, I thought, is one of those whose joy and parting smiles are bestowed on all but me. And then I bent over her head and whispered, "Awake, fairest, thy lover is near. He who would give his life but to obtain one look of affection from thine eyes. My beloved, awake." The sleeper stirred. A thrill of terror ran through me. Should she indeed awake and see me and curse me and denounce the murderer? Thus would she assuredly act if her darkened eyes opened and she beheld me. The thought was madness. It stirred the fiend within me. Not I, but she, shall suffer. The murder I have committed because I am forever robbed of all that she could give me. She shall atone. The crime had its source in her. Be hers the punishment. Thanks to the lesson of Felix and the sanguinary laws of man, I had learned now to work mischief. I bent over her and placed the portrait securely in one of the folds of her dress. She moved again, and I fled. For some days I haunted the spot where these scenes had taken place, sometimes wishing to see you, sometimes resolved to quit the world and its miseries forever. At length I wandered towards these mountains, and have ranged through their immense recesses, consumed by a burning passion which you alone can gratify. We may not part until you have promised to comply with me, with my requisition. I am alone and miserable. Man will not associate with me, but one as deformed and horrible as myself would not deny herself to me. My companion must be of the same species and have the same defects. This being you must create. That is indeed exciting. Oops. I have to read this. What the hell? Ads started playing. Oops. Oh, that's right. That's what I was gonna do. This. Oh. Oh wait, never mind. Okay. Fantastic. Okay. Let's continue. Chapter 17. The being finished speaking and fixed his looks upon me in the expectation of a reply, but I was bewildered, perplexed, and unable to arrange my ideas sufficiently to understand the full extent of his proposition. He continued, "You must create a female for me with whom I can live in the interchange of those sympathies necessary for my being. This you alone can do, and I demand it of you as a right which you must not refuse to concede. The latter part of his tale had kindled anew in me the anger that had died away while he narrated his peaceful life among the cottages. And as he said this, I could no longer suppress the rage that burned within me. "I do refuse it," I replied, "and no torture shall ever extort a consent from me. You may render me the most miserable of men, but you shall never make me base in my own eyes. Shall I create another like yourself, whose joint wickedness might desolate the world? Begone! I have answered you. You may torture me, but I will never consent." "You are in the wrong," replied the fiend, "and instead of threatening, I am content to reason with you. I am malicious because I am miserable. Am I not shunned? Am I not shunned and hated by all mankind? You, my creator, would tear me to pieces and triumph. Remember that, and tell me why I should pity man more than he pities me. You would not call it murder if you could precipitate me into one of those ice rifts and destroy my frame, the work of your own hands. Shall I respect man when he condemns me? Let him live with me in the interchange of kindness, and instead of injury I would bestow every benefit upon him with tears of gratitude at his acceptance. But that cannot be. The human senses are insurmountable barriers to our union. Yet mine shall not be the submission of abject slavery. I will revenge my injuries. If I cannot inspire love, I will cause fear, and chiefly towards you, my arch enemy, because my creator, do I swear inextinguishable hatred. Have a care. I will work at your destruction, nor finish until I desolate your heart, so that you shall curse the hour of your birth." A fiendish rage animated him as he said this. His face was wrinkled into contortions too horrible for human eyes to behold, but presently he calmed himself and proceeded. "I intended to reason. His passion is detrimental to me, for you do not reflect that you are the cause of its excess. If any being felt emotions of benevolence towards me, I should return them 100 and 100-fold. For that one creature's sake I would make peace with the whole kind. But I now indulge in dreams of bliss that cannot be realized. What I ask of you is reasonable and moderate. I demand a creature of another sex, but as hideous as myself. The gratification is small, but it is all that I can receive, and it shall content me. It is true, we shall be monsters, cut off from all the world, but on that account we shall be more attached to one another. Our lives will not be happy, but they will be harmless and free from the misery I now feel. Oh, my Creator, make me happy. Let me feel gratitude towards you for one benefit. Let me see that I excite the sympathy of some existing thing. Do not deny me my request." I was moved. I shuddered when I thought of the possible consequences of my consent, but I felt that there was some justice in his argument. His tale and the feelings he now expressed proved him to be a creature of fine sensations, and did I not as his maker owe him all the portion of happiness that it was in my power to bestow? He saw my change of feeling and continued. "If you consent, neither you nor any other human being shall ever see us again. I will go to the vast wilds of South America. My food is not that of man. I do not destroy the lamb and the kid to glut my appetite. Acorns and berries afford me sufficient nourishment. My companion... excuse me. My companion will be of the same nature as myself, and will be content with the same fate. We shall make our bed of dried leaves. The sun will shine on us, as on man, and will ripen our food. The picture I present to you is peaceful and human, and you must feel that you could deny it only in the wantonness of power and cruelty. Pitiless as you have been towards me, I now see compassion in your eyes. Let me seize the favorable moment and persuade you to promise what I so ardently desire. You propose, replied I, to fly from the habitations of man, to dwell in those wilds where the beasts of the field will be your only companions. How can you, who long for the love and sympathy of man, persevere in this exile? You will return and again seek their kindness, and you will meet with their destination, and you will meet with their detestation. Your evil passions will be renewed, and you will then have a companion to aid you in the task of destruction. This may not be. Cease to argue the point, for I cannot consent. How inconstant are your feelings? But a moment ago you were moved by my representations, and why do you again harden yourself to my complaints? I swear to you, by the earth which I inhabit, and by you that made me, that with the companion you bestow I will quit the neighborhood of man and dwell, as it may chance, in the most savage of places. My evil passions will have fled, for I shall meet with sympathy. My life will flow quietly away, and in my dying moments I shall not curse my Maker. His words had a strange effect upon me. I compassionated him, and sometimes felt a wish to console him. But when I looked upon him, when I saw the filthy mass that moved and talked, my heart sickened, and my feelings were altered to those of horror and hatred. I tried to stifle these sensations. I thought that as I could not sympathize with him, I had no right to withhold from him the small portion of happiness which was yet in my power to bestow. You swear, I said, to be harmless, but have you not already shown a degree of malice that should reasonably make me distrust you? May not even this be a feint that will May not even this be a feint that will increase your triumph by affording a wider scope for your revenge? How is this? I must not be trifled with, and I demand an answer. If I have no ties and no affections, hatred and vice must be my portion. The love of another will destroy the cause of my crimes, and I shall become a thing of whose existence everyone will be ignorant. My vices are the children of a forced solitude that I abhor, and my virtues will necessarily arise when I live in communion with an equal. I shall feel the affections of a sensitive being and become linked to the chain of existence and events from which I am now excluded. Relax. I paused some time to reflect on all he had related and the various arguments which he had employed. I thought of the promise of virtues which he had displayed on the opening of his existence, and the subsequent blight of all kindly feeling by the loathing and scorn which his protectors had manifested towards him. His power and threats were not omitted in my calculations. A creature who could exist in the ice caves of the
a creature who could exist in the ice caves of the glaciers and hide himself from pursuit among the ridges of inaccessible precipices was a being possessing faculties it would be vain to cope with. After a long pause of reflection, I concluded that the justice due both to him and my fellow creatures demanded of me that I should comply with his request. Turning to him, therefore, I said, "I consent to your demand, on your solemn oath to quit Europe forever, and every other place in the neighborhood of man, as soon as I shall deliver to you the hands a female. As soon as I shall deliver into your hands a female who will accompany you in your exile." "I swear," he cried, "by the sun, and by the blue sky of heaven, and by the fire of love that burns my heart, that if you grant my prayer, while they exist, you shall never behold me again. Depart to your home and commence your labors. I shall watch their progress with an unutterable anxiety, and fear not but that when you are ready, I shall appear." Saying this, he suddenly quitted me, fearful, perhaps, of any change in my sentiments. I saw him descend the mountain with greater speed than the flight of an eagle, and quickly lost among the undulations of the sea of ice. His tale had occupied the whole day, and the sun was upon the verge of horizon when he departed. I knew that I ought to hasten my descent towards the valley, as I should soon be encompassed in darkness, but my heart was heavy, and my steps slow. The labor of winding among the little paths of the mountain and fixing my feet firmly as I advanced perplexed me, occupied as I was by the emotions which the occurrences of the day had produced. Night was far advanced when I came to the halfway resting. Night was far advanced when I came to the halfway resting place and seated myself beside the mountain. The stars shone at intervals as the clouds passed from over them. The dark passes rose before me, and every here and there a broken tree lay on the ground. It was a scene of wonderful solemnity, and stirred strange thoughts within me. I wept bitterly, and clasping my hands in agony, I exclaimed, "Oh, stars and clouds and winds, ye are all about to mock me. If ye really pity me, crush sensation and memory. Let me become as naught. But if not, depart and leave me in darkness." These were wild and miserable thoughts, but I cannot describe to you how the eternal twinkling of the stars weighed upon me, and how I listened to every blast of wind as if it were a dull, ugly siroc on its way to consume me. Morning dawned before I arrived at the village of Chamonix. Morning dawned before I arrived at the village of Chamonix. I took no rest, but returned immediately to Geneva. Even in my own heart, I could give no expression to my sensations. They weighed on me with a mountain's weight, and their excess destroyed my agony beneath them. Thus I returned home, and entering the house, presented myself to the family. My haggard and wild appearance awoke intense alarm. But I answered no question, scarcely did I speak. I felt as if I were placed under a ban, as if I had no right to claim their sympathies, as if never more might I enjoy companionship with them. Yet even thus I loved them to adoration, and to save them I resolved to dedicate myself to my most abhorred task. The prospect of such an occupation made every other circumstance of existence pass before me like a dream, and that thought only had to me the reality of life. Sick. They're gonna make another one? Frankenstein, you fool. You beloved fool. Oop. It does seem, yeah, true. Relaxable place. My goodness. How fantastic. Okay. I was reading about the differences between the movies and the book. What did you find? I didn't finish that yet? Oh, you mean my water? Yeah, I had a little bit left. It got cold by the time I finished it. So much speaking. This is going really well, I think. It's pretty fantastic. What's with a straight face? Yes. The main difference is who the monster wants to get revenge on. Oh. Well, don't spoil it. I actually haven't seen the movie. So you must not spoil it. And I've never read the book before. So since this is my first time, I kind of want to enjoy, enjoy the most of it as much as I can. And just, have a fantastic time. Where are we? Let me just do this real quick. Cool. Well, this has gone really well, and I appreciate all of you for staying here. I'm really looking forward to the rest of this. I think there are only maybe 6 more chapters of this book, or so. But they might be long. They seem to be about 20 minutes or so each so far. I love this. So, also, something that I found really interesting was that the author, Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley, she was a huge proponent back in the day of women's rights. I was actually reading about this yesterday in a history course that I'm doing. I was very surprised to see her name there. Super interesting. Fun fact. Big proponent of women's rights. But she died pretty young. I think she died at like 38. From heart problems. She's to blame. Trust me, we're all to blame, aren't we? At the end of the day. We are all to blame. That's fantastic. Did you guys enjoy today's narration? Was it a good time? I hope it was. I'll do this real quick. I will narrate more tomorrow.
at about the same time, I think, depending on how it goes. Oh, I still have yet to write today. Gotta get on that. Isn't it so nice, this music? I like it quite a lot. Something that I have to give myself a pat on the back for is reducing the amount of mouth clicks that I'm doing. So much in the past. It might be because I can hear myself in the monitoring of my headset. But in the past, I would have all these kinds of mouth clicks. And now, there's a lot less of that. Fantastic. Music is nice, yeah. Well, it's nice to meet you too, Opox. I'm gonna stop here. Thank you. Hope you have a great day and night and great stream. I'm trying to do our next stream. Goodbye. Much love, Opox. Thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Obviously, I will now. Well, you won't as much because they're not as prevalent as they were before. So, you won't have to worry. Also, because I drink... Yeah, please do join next stream. I would love that. There we have it. Fantastic. Alright, I'm gonna pop out. Should I write? Yes, I'm gonna write a little bit. Then watch a Better Call Saul episode. And then go to bed. I haven't eaten. But I can't be arsed, man. Holy shit. Cooking food is so annoying these days. Alas, thank you so much for watching. Nice, 19 days. Oh, since the 31st, yeah? Are you intending on keeping that, or keeping that going? Like getting one of those pin, what do they call it? Those, like, you know, 6 month sober type thing. Really? Nice. Love to hear it. Oh, hey, bring me with you. My goodness, huh? Hey, do you have 1 bit, Diablik, or anyone else here? I think it's just you here, Diablik. I think Dark and Mitchie left. Do you have 1 bit at your disposal? I am poor, you know, looking for handouts, and I was gonna quote myself, but that'd be kind of cringe, wouldn't it? You have 28? Sick. I'm not gonna go assuming, or, you know, expecting. All I request is a measly half penny, is it? Yeah. Oh shit, half of it. Well, that's not what I meant by half, but sick. Sick. Thank you. Yes, it would be that. Who's a lad? Pro fantastic. Okay, well, that's it. I will head to out now. Head to out. Thank you for being fantastic. I'll see you tomorrow. And then Sunday next. Yeah? Go ahead and click the YouTube links, alright? Does this work, actually? Let me check. It does. Thank you. Oh my lord. Could you go ahead and just be a goobery goo? And yeah. Shimmer. Peace on the streets, everybody. By everybody, I mean Diabolic. Good night.